working with color has been very therapeutic for me. Just in this time where we're so restricted, and I needed some kind of outlet, and there's a lot of movement in working with color, and watercolor and pastels is very tactile. So yeah, it's been an outlet for me.
So we were wondering, your career the last couple of years especially has been so big project heavy. You've had I, Tonya, you've had Spinning Out. Yeah, what were you supposed to be doing in 2020? What was, originally, did you have more?
Well, I was in the middle of working on a new show for Royal Caribbean for Willoughby Tech Productions. We were 1 week away from going into rehearsal. We were fully cast. The train had left the station.
Okay.
And then it all blew up, and Royal Caribbean shut down and canceled the order for it, which is unusual. But they're under such stress. So all of our shows closed down. We have 15 shows on Royal Caribbean. They're all heavy production with a lot of high quality skaters on it. And it's a real circuit for skaters today that are, seeking show work. And but it completely cled down.
So you will not be doing that show at all in the future?
As of right now, it has not been picked up to be put back into production. I mean, we have costume designs and set designs, and I had choreography plan. I had music cut. I had all my music. I just finished editing all my music. So, perhaps in the future when they get more solid on their feet. But the first thing that they want to do is get some of the shows back up and running. Shows that are proven, that are designed, that we're running.
Mm-hmm. Before starting something completely new.
Yeah, before because when you create a new show, it's a longer process, a bigger investment for everybody. Mm-hmm. And they're not willing to go there. They're just trying to figure out how to get reopened.
Yeah, just get our feet, back underneath us at this point.
Yeah, we actually had a whole cast go to Miami, and they had in December, and they had to quarantine for 2 weeks in a hotel, and then they were going to go get COVID tested again, and then go on the ship, and then do another 3 weeks of rehearsal. This was an existing show, but when it came to the end of the 2 weeks of quarantine, the CDC shut them down, and everybody was sent back home. And it's an international cast, people from all over the world, and they all got sent back home. So.
Well, you joined the Ice show, Ice Capades, when you were 17. So what made you decide to leave competitive skating at that point in your career?
I really, I was not a great competitor. I was terrible with my nerves. I could do anything in practice, but when it came down to the moment, I tended to fall apart. But my last year in competition, senior Canadians, I think I ended up 22nd. But a talent scout saw me from the Ice Capades and talked to my coach, Osborne Colson, and said, that girl could do well in the Ice Capades. So they arranged for an audition, and that was the year that Karen Magnuson won Canadians and won Worlds. She went on to win Worlds, and we both joined the Ice Capades at the same time, and I ended up being her understudy. And she went from east to west company back and forth, and I went in opposition to her because that's what they wanted me to do. So it was a great opportunity, and then we actually became friends because I said I would do it as long as I got to play my hometown, which is Toronto, and of course that's a big city for a world champion, so she would play it also, but they let me back in for my hometown, and so it was the beginning of a great career for me.
So you were at, obviously under Osborne Colson, Sandra Bezic, another big choreographer, obviously at the same rink. David Wilson, I believe, has come out of there. What do you think it is about the Cricket Club back then? Obviously, Toller Cranston, was there just a big spirit of creativity? Or, do you have any explanation for why there are so many of the choreographers who have been still leading in that industry for the last, 30, 40 years that are all from that same place and that same point of time? Was there something happening there?
I always felt like Canadian skaters are very well rounded, and everybody did ice dancing. They took all their dance tests. They did some pair work. I took some pair tests as well, and it was an environment that really encouraged so many different influences, not just a specialized tunnel vision, you're going to do this kind of thing. And I think that helped with the creative mind developing. Working with Osborne Colson, he really, he had the Banff School of Fine Arts program, which he would have different people from the different areas of drama and music and theater and dance, and they would come in and they speak to us or they work with us, and there was this great environment of exchange of the arts. And I had that from when I was like 11 years old. I went to the Banff School of Fine Arts for 6 summers, and that really was a great training ground for me. And we all, Ellen Burka, and who trained Sandra, she and Osborne were always with one another and kind of, doing this with one another at the rink. And that was so fun. And Toller was, she reined him in. Ellen Burka reined Toller in, and it was fun to re-meet him as an adult, because I saw him as a child, but then I got to re-meet him as an adult.
Well, you were in a very infamous Toller Cranston, a couple Toller Cranston specials, and we've watched them. We didn't know what was happening, if there were substances involved. There was a lot of stuff going on, and you were in the first one. There was some sort of like drag singer performer, we're not sure, and everyone was in like gold costumes and they were dancers.
That was Strawberry Ice. That was Strawberry.
Yeah. What happened in Strawberry Ice? What do we need to know about, this?
It was the wildest thing. He said, we were in the Ice Capades. He was guest starring in the Ice Capades, and I was, principal in the Ice Capades. And he took me aside and he said, I have this concept. For a television program special that I have pitched to the CBC. And he said, I took black and white pictures, photographs of myself, and that I'm painting, and I'm trying to find the face of all of these paintings. And I can't seem to finish any of the paintings because I can't find the face. He said, and I want you to be the face. Oh, okay, sure, I could do that. And so he had an alter ego as the artist. He had an alter ego, and his body would lift out of his body, and he would go on these journeys. So he'd go under the water and into the sky and into the planets, and then he'd have the black and my favorite was the black and white fantasy animals. I always thought that was just wild and out there, and I loved every second of it. But it was the first well, now they do chroma key, they did blue and now they do green, where you can replace the image with another image. And of course, technology has come so far, but it was the first at that time. It was the first of its kind. where you could do fantasy and you could look down into a black hole and we would go there. And but it all came out of his head. It all came out of his head. And
you were the strawberry in Strawberry Ice, right?
Strawberry Queen.
Strawberry Queen. So sorry. Okay.
That's okay.
It's the Queen, Dave. Not just the strawberry. Take that part out. Yeah.
No, we also saw you. There was a John Curry performance. Was it Peter and the Wolf that you were in?
Yeah, I was the bird.
Okay.
I was the bird.
Yes.
The bluebird. And it was such a privilege to work with him. And what I loved so much about him was that he worked both sides of your body. And I was actually good at that. You know, I could do steps, and then I could just flip it and do it on the other side of my body. And he loved that about me. I was good on point. And so it was a perfect role for me. And Jojo Starbuck was the cat, and we were really good friends from the Ice Capade days. And so we had a great deal of fun. And John Curry was, it was an amazing opportunity to work with his mind and body and soul. And he just, you know, working with him and working with Toller, I just felt like if I never worked with anybody else again in my life, you know, I've been anointed. You know, it was like being knighted or something. It was really neat because they were so different. They were just so different from each other, but they were both so superb in their own way. And I really felt like I could go either way with them.
How do you compare them in their styles?
Yeah, different in what way?
Yeah. Well, really, John Curry was so classical, so beautifully classical. Everything about him was superbly in line at all times. And Toller was, you know, away from center. Everything about him was away from center. And I was actually away from center. That was my natural way of movement. Very modern dance. So one was classical and the other was modern.
How did you go from performing in the Ice Capades to choreographing for the Ice Capades? How does that kind of transition occur?
Oh gosh, I when I was in the Ice Capades, I talked with Bob Turk, who was the producer director, and I told him I really wanted to, you know, get into choreography because I knew that I couldn't perform forever, and I didn't want to go down. I didn't want to be one of those performers that performed too long because I'd seen a lot of those, and I didn't want to be one of them. So I wanted to go up when I was high, and then I wanted to transition into choreography, and I would have done anything for him, but he wouldn't let me in. He would not let me in. So I left the Ice Capades, and I thought, he said, you know, you have a definite style of movement that I don't think that other people can do. So I thought to myself, well, I'm going to prove that I can teach it, because I knew I was a good teacher. I knew I could break it down. And I could, that was what I became good at, was drawing movement out of people that they didn't know they had in their bodies, because that's how I felt and what I was good at. So I left the show to prove that I could do it, And I did. I was lucky. I was just in the right place at the right time at Peggy Fleming. I was looking for a new choreographer because Bob Paul had signed an exclusive contract with Disney on Ice. And that was the very next year. I left, and the very next year I got the call from her. She was looking for someone to create a number for her that she would be a guest star with the Ice Capades. So I did Hello Again, Neil Diamond's Hello Again for her, and that began our relationship. And from there I went she asked me if I would do her solo work in her in her nightclub show, evening, Peggy Fleming, an Evening on Ice in Harris Lake Tahoe, which was a Willie Vitek production. And Kathy Steele, his wife, was doing all the production work. So that was my in to choreography, working with Peggy, and then crossing over with Kathy into production work for the show. It was a 90-minute show. And then from there, she asked me to come with her to Radio City Music Hall, and Bob Shipstead Productions and Radio City Music Hall Productions were going to create a huge show with cast of 45, and Toller Cranston and Robin Cousins and Peggy Fleming were headlining, and Alan Schramm, and I got to perform in it and as well, but they asked me if I would choreograph it. And that was my big break, my really big break. So I did it. And from there I got to come back to the Ice Capades and choreograph an opening production number. Bob Turk let me back in.
So Peggy Fleming was the first skater for whom you choreographed? Solo skater was Peggy?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like, the first time that you're choreographing?
Wait. My good friend JoJo Starbuck, she was doing super skates, and she needed a number. So she asked me if I'd do a number for her, and I did. I did that one number for her, and then Peggy Fleming asked me to do this number, and that took me far away. But it was really a match made in heaven, because she was so perfect. She was so perfect and always like right over center. And so my goal was to bring more emotion to her, and to bring her off center. And technically she was, of course she was world and Olympic champion. But she mentally, she was willing to go there with me. And that was really, really fun.
Mwah.
Well, when you're doing that, are you feeling intimidated when you get the call, or had you been mentally preparing for this your whole life? Had you been someone that was like, mentally choreographing? Like, I used to sit, doing my homework, and my pencils would magically be doing skating performances on my desk. I don't know how this happened, but in my, I just like see it. So did you feel like, oh, I know what to do? Like, this is...
when I was in the Ice Capades, I learned so much, and from watching, and also when I was in the BAM School of Fine Arts, and I would go down and watch rehearsals. And I was just a kid. I mean, I was like 11 to 16 in age when I was at BAM, but those were very formative years. And I would go and watch the dance rehearsals that I just reveled in. I just loved, because I just loved seeing that process and seeing how they moved the people around, and this, that, and the other. And then, that those were great influences. And George Foster used to choreograph her with Ernie Flatt for the Carol Burnett show. And so TV, time is money, and he would come into Ice Capade rehearsals with his notepad and everything was all figured out, and counts of 8, and he knew exactly what he was doing. And I loved that. I thought, oh my God, look at this. This is fabulous. This is the way to do it, And in the ice department, they just, because he was a dancer, but it was not the same. So in those days, they had 8 weeks of rehearsal before the show opened. What a luxury of time. That's just a tremendous luxury. So George would come in and get his stuff up, and then he had all this time to clean because he was so well prepared, and he had the vision. And I think that was where I really gained the most knowledge, was from my formative years, and then from George Foster, watching how he worked.
So when you were told that the way that you move was something that wasn't transferable to other skaters, and you were told that you couldn't choreograph for the Ice Capades, it sounds like that disappointment, it wasn't something that derailed you. You used that as, oh no, I'll show you, I'm gonna come back. Where does that come from? Because I think a lot of skaters are just people, when we hear that type of disappointment, can take it to heart and would quit in that situation. But it doesn't seem like that crossed your mind.
You know, I think it probably was, that kind of feeling was probably born from my childhood, because I lost my mother when I was 12, and I lost her on Christmas Day. So I was supposed to skate the next day, you know, as you do when you're competing. And my dad told me about my mom, and then he said, you can choose to go, or you could not go. You don't have to go. And I think that I chose to go. Mr. C was there at the rink, and we just muddled through. And I think that lesson of you know, continuing, just continue, just participate, just keep going. If that's what you want to do, then just keep going after it. And it's about the journey, and it's not about the end road. And I never knew that I knew I could do it. I knew I could choreograph the show, but not in an egotistical way. It was just that I just felt like it was my path, and I had to go down this path. And if I had to turn left and right and go around the corner and come back and repeat and do something like that, then I would do it, because it's my path. And I found joy in my path, and I didn't worry about the end result. I was very, very lucky with my end results. But honestly, it was just knowing and believing in the path that I wanted to take.
What do you think your signature style has been? Because I was thinking about your work, the last couple of days, and I was, reflecting, and I was thinking about how you do use the body in a very interesting way. But I wouldn't always say immediately when I see a program that you did it, but then when someone says that you did it, it does make sense to me. So I was trying to think about like Lu Chen, you did her program to that, is it an anime music from the 94 Olympics? You did it the year before too. What was the Nausicaa thing, I remember.
Yeah.
It's like you use your whole body in work. And like, how do you like?
Well, she was so rigid.
Okay.
She was, man, and she was solid. Gosh, she was just like running into a brick wall. She was just so strong, so solid, and she was so rectangular. And then her legs just kind of came out like stovepipes. And so, but she had that sensibility, but I needed to soften her. I needed to soften her and get her to, she wasn't expressive, but I need to give the illusion that she was expressive. So you can do that with the direction of incline of the head, or how you position the space between your head and your arm. If everything is here, it's going to look stiff. If it's a little closer to your limbs.
I want to do a class now, Sarah. Like Dave and I are both moving with you. Like instinctively as you're talking.
It's just, what I love about, the thing about when he told me that I couldn't do it, he said, you got all these different body types. And when Scott Hamilton came to me, and his body type he's everything that I'm not, everything perhaps that I wish I could be in another life, but everything that I'm not in this life. It was fast and fiery and quick, and he was like a goat on the ice, and he had this fabulous personality. But you know, you take the attributes of what the talent has, and you look at it and you see what's missing. What can I add to it? And use what they have. Use what they have in a way that perhaps they've never thought of using in this particular way. And that way that became my signature, I guess, because I've worked with people from, you know, Oksana Baiul, who was very sinewy and very much like the way I could move. And then she was this like wild cat. She was like a wild cat. So you had to kind of rein in.
We have questions about that. You worked with her at the height of the troubles, the Oksana years, and you would be sitting in the kiss and cry when she's snubbing Elfie Schlegel, who wants to interview her about her performance, and you always just sat there and looked very composed. You know?
I remember being in Champions on Ice. We went a couple days early before everybody else. We, meaning Oksana and I, because she was making her comeback, one of her comebacks, and and the lights were, you know, they didn't put all the lights on at the same time, so that, you know, we were rehearsing. It was only us, and I swear to God, you know, as brilliant as she was, she could go out there and all of a sudden just throw herself 100 miles an hour into the air and forget why she was there. Like, oh my God, what am I doing up here? And then she comes, boom, crashing down. The most horrible falls I have ever witnessed. And I thought to myself, I'm standing by the boards like this. And I thought, well, do I react or not? And I just,
how did you get that call? Because she had been with Galena up until that point. She crashes into the tree. They split.
Right after the tree. I was after the tree.
You were after the tree.
Yeah,
okay.
I was after the tree. You know, and she, you know, God, she had everything. That girl had everything. It was so maddening because she could have been a huge star if she could just hold it together. And she was supposed to do, and we, Kenneth Feld wined and dined her and brought her to his house and sent her flowers and sent a car for her. I mean, he never does that. To get her to play the lead in Anastasia, which was my show. And we needed her. We needed her because it wasn't a Disney show. It was a 20th Century Fox show. And so it didn't have the clout. And so it was an artistic show, you know, and yeah. And she just couldn't bring herself to pull it together to do it. It was really such a shame. But, you know, you know, it's always, you always come away with lessons learned with each personality that you work with. And, you know, it's good. It's all good. I enjoy it.
So I remember with her, you did a flower program. People wanted to ask about this program, and she was draped with fabric and fabulousness. Like, what? Talk about like the inspiration for this. Yeah.
Well, it was a rebirth, you know. She was coming back, and so it was like supposed to be like a rebirth. So the flower was closed when she started, and then the flower opened and blossomed and blah blah blah. And then I felt like I gave her an extra piece of fabric so that we could, you know, go under and lift up and give her a broader dimension than just her body. And I thought that would help, you know, in the actual number.
How many programs did you do for her?
Oh, I don't know. I did a handful of them because she did World Professional. One of the she did a Massive Attack number that I loved. I just loved it. And then she also did, I did All That Jazz with a hat with her.
Yeah.
It was, those were her two best numbers I did for her, I would say. But
Jen
they were
loves the number in the hat that she says is very Sarah Kawahara, that you are I think Oksana's like on her toe picks going.
Oh, I love it. That's my favorite program that you done for her.
No, you remember it? Yeah.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
And all her little dancing in the middle. Just like
Yeah.
her face.
Now, were
Yeah,
you responsible for the
it was
number?
a hard number. It was a tough number.
It looks hard. Yeah.
too.
Lots of energy
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Yeah, God, she had it all. She did have it all. She just didn't keep it together all the time.
Mhm.
So I wish her well.
Yeah, when you say, Sarah, that you really see part of your job as noticing what is missing from a skater and bringing that out, what was that with Scott that you brought up?
With Scott, it was really I realized that that he was such a showman. I mean, he was a showman, but nobody really tapped into it. And I watched how he did the chicken number, and he did stuff where he was fearless. He was fearless to interact with the audience, and I thought we could take this somewhere. I can really take that somewhere, because he was an actor, and then I discovered that I got the biggest charge out of challenging him to do Trouble. You've Got Trouble in River City, from The Music Man. And when we did his nightclub show for Hair's Like Tahoe, I had him do, we did, it's called, it was the first incarnation of Broadway on Ice. And I had 4 guys with pool cues, and he had a pool cue, and I had a pool table, and I had a little thing where he could jump up onto the trampoline, that he could jump onto the pool table standing up. And I did this whole number, and I asked him to do it live, and he had to wear a body mic, and he did the whole Robert Pariston, You Got Trouble, My Friends. And it was sensational. It was sensational. And I thought, well, this is where we're going to go. We did that together, and I thought, this is where we're going to go, because we can go anywhere now, So it was great, because I could expand his, because his technical virtuosity was terrific, and he was, he always took pride in keeping his level, keeping the triple Lutz, making sure it was there, and and just always keeping his technical level as high as he could, while I expanded all the other parts of him. And that was really how we were so successful together. Because a lot of people, they don't, like, it'll be interesting to see what today's skater is so advanced in many ways, but it's interesting when you see them do a show, they dumb it down so drastically that, I mean, that's the whole thing about bringing the level of, that's what I wanted to do, was because when I came into being in creating shows, I wanted to create shows for the skaters that showed off what they could do, that raised the level, the base level of choreography, so that it was beyond a Sinead turn and a step touch and a chasse, which is where, when I joined the show, that's where the shows choreographically were when I joined. You could do it with your eyes closed. I mean, you barely had to think, and people's brains were going away. They were losing their brains because they weren't getting to use them. So I felt like, that was my mission, was to come in and do numbers that brought out brought out their personalities and their technical virtuosities for what they could do.
So I'm curious how you deal with, because one of your strengths seems to be pushing people out of their comfort zone, and you definitely seem like a force in that way. But you had to work with Michelle Kwan, who was in a very signature style. And it seemed like she gave the program 2 seconds before she stripped everything out when you did her Olympic program to Scheherezade. It seemed like you had a vision and Michelle was fighting it. So what was that experience like for you? And what were you trying to
I
give
had
her?
to let it go. I had to let it go because she was going through such emotional strife there, you know, and I was, and that was the Olympic year. I was choreographing the opening and closing ceremonies of the Olympics. So I had my own thing going on. And we were both there at the same time, but I had done the number previously, and then I had come back and checked on it, 3 times or so, 3 or 4 times. And then she was going through this whole thing with Frank. So I just had to let it go that particular time, because I could not be the force that she needed or that she wanted at the time. The best thing I could give her was her show program, because she came to me and she said, I need a show program. And I thought to myself, God, this girl could win or she could lose. And that's when I gave her Fields of Gold, because I thought it would be gold whether she won or she didn't win. That number would be golden for her. So that was the best gift I could give her at that time.
What were you trying to add to her skating? Obviously, she was such an icon and such a signature style of movement. But I remember she had these like hops that you put in at the end of her footwork that she took out, and I loved them when I saw it. And I thought like it was, what were you trying to bring out of her? Because she was being very criticized. There was the Russian political machine was saying she was stale and all the same. And, what were you trying to spice up?
Well, I think that when I worked with her for her first TV special, it was Mulan. She was very young. She had just won Worlds, and I felt like she could tell a story. I felt like she could tell a story, and that I felt like Frank wanted her to tell a story. He was very into telling stories, but I also wanted to free her up from, I felt like, she was very trained, she was in the box. They put her in different boxes, and she really wanted to be freer, but she couldn't because of the technical demands, and the whole psyche thing of I got to do it, and I have to do it in a certain way, and I have to repeat it the same way that I've done it for 10 years. I have to go into it this way.
Right. This has always been successful. Yeah.
It's like, everybody does it, but I knew that she was, I wanted to show her that she was good enough that she could still do those things, the required elements, and have a slightly different exit or coming into it. And, but the things that I ask take energy. It takes stamina, extra stamina and extra energy. And you have to be, and that's why things go away in people's programs, because they're trying to conserve. They're trying to conserve, because get the whole mental thing happening, and they tighten up, and they got those hops that you like.
I love the hop, Sarah. Okay.
If I have to do this hop, I can't do it.
Right.
So that's, it was really trying to free her up. I tried to free her up, and I did several. I did 3, I want to say 4 TV specials for her that were, I really pushed that button with her, in her, and I hoped that it would, it was something that she took with her, because once you experience something with me and you've had to produce and do it on film and wherever, it's not going to go away. I know the seed is planted, the seed is well sown, so it's just a matter of you know, do I want to bring it back? Do I want it to grow, blossom more, or not be bothered? You know, but I think I would like to think that happens with everyone that I work with, but I do know for there's a fair amount of that out there. There's a fair amount of me out there in a lot of different people.
What was
How
it
do
like?
you, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, how do you, because I think about a skater like Michelle or Scott, anybody that you've worked with, Peggy, and you know, they've established a set style or a set, you know, way of seeing themselves as a skater. How do you get in there to plant that seed? Do you have a set process that you go through? How do you find and make a skater comfortable to get out of their comfort zone? Because skaters can be perfectionistic and kind of in that box, like you talk about with Michelle. So what's your process to helping a skater feel comfortable?
I try to get to know them. I try to get to know their tastes. I think a lot of times skaters are told what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and have had a lifetime of many years of total direction. And when I work with a skater, the first thing I try to do is get to know them. What kind of music do they like? Who do they like to listen to? Do they like sports? No. Theater? Yeah. What kind of theater? Who are your favorite? I just try to get to know them a little bit, you know, and let them talk about stuff that they wouldn't normally talk about with a person in skating. You know, they might with their friends, you know, but so I just try to get to know them a little bit, and I think it's good because it also makes them think about their own taste. Like sometimes, what's your favorite color? You know, some people don't even have a favorite color because nobody's ever asked them, or they've never bought anything that, or they don't really know, or they just never given themselves the time of day to have an opinion, to explore themselves, to reach inside themselves and get to know themselves. Because unless they start to get to know themselves, they can't expand. All you can do is take influence in like this, but you can't expand and grow unless you get to know who you are. And when you're a kid, it takes a while to get to know who you are, even as a grown-up. You know, it takes a long time. We're still growing up.
So what was the process like for you, having to learn the choreographic genius that was Tonya Harding and then teach that to someone else? You know, what is that like for you? And what are your thoughts on Tanya's style?
I was gonna say, I think I was listening to an interview yesterday or something that you said, Sarah, where, well, thankfully her choreography was pretty simple. Like it was, you said it in such a kind way though, but it was very much like, there wasn't a lot that I had to learn.
There was a look in Sarah's eye when she said that comment.
Well, it's really, like I said to my assistant at the time, I said, look, we have to treat this like a doc, like we're doing a documentary, okay? Because it's historical. I'm just gonna take those numbers and put them back out there, but I have to do it on different people, you know, an actress and then some decent doubles, you know. So so there was I treated it like research, like doing a documentary, you know, and so it was good. It was fun. for me to do that because it was very simple. It was very, very simple, and you know, you know, Michael Rosenberg came to me and asked me to choreograph for her when we were, you know, one of those Champions on Ice parties afterwards, and she was there, and I said, "Oh, Michael, I just can't do it right because I have too much on my plate, and there's just too much. There'd be too much." I think I was working with a lot of different people at the time, and I knew that it was going to be a tough match for me. I honestly didn't think there would be much I could bring to the table for her at the time. So I turned it down. So it's kind of interesting that this would come around, like, you know, 20, 30 years later.
Your thoughts on like her movement? Like she has that signature lean she does in every program, whether it fits or not.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, she skated very fast.
She did.
And her spins were fast, really very fast. And you know, choreography in the day was very simple in the day.
The iconic Tana number for her, because I like that she swings her head. It goes to like
did a
that
lot of
sax
it
music, and 92 she does the hitch kick. Like, come
I
on.
know the director, he really was obsessed with her head rolls and her head tosses and stuff, and I had to make sure that those were in. You know, it was really quite funny.
Margot was tough enough as Tonya in it. Like I felt like, you know, Tonya was a little tougher than the portrayal in the film. They really softened her for Hollywood. It was.
Well, Margot's so beautiful.
Yes.
You know, it's so extraordinary.
I didn't feel that she could get anyone up with a hubcap, and I believe that the real Tonya could. So that's.
Yeah. But you know, she came. It was wild. She came to the premiere. Tonya came to the premiere, and I spoke with her, and I thought, God, is this an awkward conversation or what? You know. But I mean, what do you say? What do you say? I said, you know, what did you think? I said, are you happy with what you saw? I mean, that's all I could really say.
What did you answer? Did she say yes or?
Yes, she did. She said yes. Yeah. You know, I had, you know, and it was good for the two young girls that were her doubles, because they you know, they had to triplets a lot. You know, so, and nobody could do it. I couldn't get a triple XL. It wasn't a dime a dozen at the time, and I just so we had to cheat it. But it was interesting to get. It was interesting for the young people that were like, I think one was 19 and the other one was maybe 21 years old. So they weren't like not even born yet.
When 1994.
When that happened.
Yeah.
So I think it was interesting for them. I think they actually enjoyed it.
How about Spinning Out? Because this was such an interesting show, and you had.
I was there forever.
What did you think of it?
Forever in Toronto, which I loved because that's where I grew up, in Toronto, and then the whole shoot was in Toronto, so I got to reconnect with my roots, you know. So that was really neat. And drive in the snowstorm, boy, I haven't done that in a long time. But it was a, you know, it was a great opportunity to do. I had never done a series, you know, before. So it was very interesting to do that. And there was a lot of skating in it. So I was working a lot, you know, and it was too bad that it didn't get picked up, but it was expensive. It was an expensive show for them to do. So I'm sure that you know, factored into it.
How much now, Sarah, do you watch skating and do you follow current skaters?
I do. I'm not on the edge of my seat and watch it when it happens. I have to say I watch it after it happens. I'm sorry to say, but at least with the, with the internet now, you can stay pretty current and see what everybody's done. And this season has been particularly slow. So, even if Spinning Out did get picked up, we would not have been able to do it, really. So there you go. It would have been this season.
Do you work with any competitive skaters anymore?
No, I haven't worked with a competitive skater since Pang and Tong were my last. I did the tango number for them in 2010, 10 years ago. Yeah. Doesn't seem like that long ago, but it was. And no, I feel like at this point in my life, I really, I'm focused. I've always been focused on my show work, but more so now because I feel like I don't know that I can really add much to the competitive skater today. I think they're well taken care of today.
What do you mean by that? Well taken care of.
I don't believe that.
I
feel like they don't really know how to
that you could
perform or skate, Sarah. I feel like they can't really do much. And people like you and Sandra, you dance around it. You just tried to get Canadian with us, but you've been in the US too long. And I don't think I can add. That's like when you said that you couldn't add much to Tonya Harding's skating. I feel but then you said that you gave it away when you said that they're well taken care of, because they don't seem to have that other dimension to their skating that translates.
Nobody moves. Yeah, it's so, in my opinion, one dimension.
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
So sorry about that. I can't. I feel like, I came into play when the skater was very simple and if not even boring, I would say, on the more boring side of the spectrum. And I brought in the color and the busyness and the left field, left from center. But I think today it's all about, it's the way it's structured. Everything has been dogmented to be left of center, right of center, like it's so infinitesimally stated that it needs to have all these elements in it that that dictates the choreography, and there's no air to breathe to create beyond that, because there's only so much time, and the math has to add up, and you got to have the math add up today or you can't win. So I don't know that there's really a place for me in competitive skating. I feel like in the land of show, there's still a place for me. I feel like I can still create something, and I feel like there's a lot of wonderful skaters out there that have nowhere to go, and they can really expand their own skate by coming to work with me. Skate a few little dreams together, and they get hooked. They do get hooked. I do believe they get hooked, which is nice.
You worked with so many queens. Did you work with Queen Dorothy? You worked with Queen Peggy, Scott, Michelle. Is there anyone that you didn't work with that you had dreamed of choreographing for?
No, I honestly was very, very fortunate. I got to work with all the kings and queens of the era that I that I was creating, and I'm very grateful for it. And I'm very inspired when I see, like Chalk and Bates when they did the snake charmer number. I'm very inspired by that, and Papadakis and Cizeron. They're extraordinary. I mean, there are extraordinary, and Nathan Chen is
Mhm.
has taken it. He's the new.
Mhm.
Even beyond Hanyu, I think, and I'm a big fan of Hanyu's, but he doesn't have the contact, and he's not as connected, I feel, as Nathan has become. And so I am inspired by some of the skating that's out there today, and I know that I don't know where it's all going to go, but but I'm still a part of it in some way.
Well, you were telling us that people don't even know their favorite color. So I have to ask, what is your favorite color, Sarah? Like, what is it? It has to be something good here. What is?
I think it's periwinkle blue. I love
Oh,
periwinkle blue.
I like that.
Periwinkle blue is just such a great color. It's kind of purpley and bluey and pinky and periwinkle. Well, I'm really into color right now because I'm painting. So it's
Mhm.
fascinating how many colors there are out there.
Tell us about your daughter, because your daughter is quite the artist herself.
Yes.
Yes. Well, thank you for knowing that. That's really neat. Yeah. Hayley Kiyoko is my daughter.
Mhm.
And she is having, she was supposed to go on tour last year, and of course it was canceled, and she was supposed to do Lollapalooza in South America, and that was canceled. But she's working on her new album. It will be coming out in the spring, and she's got two film projects and a television series and another thing in the work. She's writing. She's writing, and she's a real creator. I'm so proud of her. Um, she is her own person, and she has a lot to say, and she has a lot of feeling for people, and um, she's a real original.
She started acting when she was quite young. Did you have any
Yes.
hesitation about, coming from the entertainment industry, about her getting into acting?
She was so driven. She started in commercials, and I'll never forget. She had an audition for a Kmart commercial, and she had to play a bass. And she said to me, I said, "You don't have a bass." She said, "I know, but let's get one. Can we get one? We can buy one, and then we can return it."
Smart girl.
So off to Guitar Center we went, and she's left-handed, so they're not a dime a dozen, But she found my husband found a red one, of course, and she brings it to the audition, and I said to her, "Well, you don't know how to play a bass." She said, "I know, but I can teach it myself. I can play the guitar. I can teach myself." So I said, "Okay, we go." I'm her driver. What can I say? So she's driven. She's always been driven. And then finally one year I said to her, "Look, we can't do everything. I mean, can we make this the year of the dance?" I said, "Just make it the year of the dance, and we'll do 13 dance classes in the week and be happy with that. Let's just be happy with that." She said, "Okay, we'll make it the year of the dance." So, I mean, but we're cut from the same cloth. I get it. I really get it. And my husband he's a comedian and an actor, and he also gets it, you know. So so we were those parents, and we, you know, basically we're just drivers. You know.
Chauffeurs.
Now she's on her own. She's got her own place, and she's got, you know, people. She has people. So I'm really thrilled and proud of her work and where she's taking it all.
Do you get your own input, or is she too much of an original to ask?
No, she asks. She asks for input. She doesn't always take it, but she asks. Yeah, we have great. I have great work. I've always shared what I do with her because she's got the same kind of mind for, you know, moving people around in choreography and stuff. When I did the Olympics in Salt Lake, all the kids came up. I had a 2-bedroom apartment, and they came up and I said, look, I have to do some count charts. Can you help me do some count charts? Let me teach you how to do some count charts. So they all learned how to do count charts, and they all know how to do it. It was kind of funny. So they've all been very much a part of my my creativity and my prep process and everything, all that I go through when I do a show. So it's fun. I can talk shop with my
What
kids.
is a count chart like? Is that like a skating version of a marching band set list where we're going from set, like where there are pictures and you're showing how to
Like
get
what people do on different counts, like each count of 8? Is that what it is?
Yeah, well, you break down the piece of music into counts of 8 or counts of 6, or however the music is counted out, and I put timing on, and then there's a box for accents or things thoughts that I have, and then I have another box for patterns, for ideas, and this is just an initial thing, but it's basically a count chart for the music, and that way I can say on the 5th count of 8 at 2:35, let's go there, and the person can pull that up, you know,
I know exactly what step.
and know, yeah, and know where I am.
How do you begin choreographing for the Olympics, like opening and closing ceremonies? And how overwhelming is that compared to other shows that you've choreographed for? What is that process like?
It was the most amazing thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I you know, I just took one day at a time. It was all, in the beginning, it was all about the story. What was the story going to be, you know, for each segment? So the fire within, what is that story going to be? And then are we getting the maximum out of this story? And then they would do a storyboard of visuals, like you know, little sketches, like little animation sketches of what's going to happen in what order and how are we going to see it. There's, you know, 40 cameras. How are we going to see it? So I first had to digest that, and then the most remarkable experience was that they were going to have original music created. So I'm sitting with Kenny Ortega, the artistic director, and he says, okay, so the Ice Warriors enter. How long do you think we should see the Ice Warriors? He said, let's close our eyes. So we closed our eyes, and I thought, okay, what am I doing here? and so he said, well, like 35 seconds. Does 35 seconds feel about right? And then we're going to have the snow. I called them potato chips. They looked like potato chips. The snow, the snow potato chips come in, and they're going to rotate, and then they're going to swallow up the ice shards, who are like truck drivers, you know, with big heavy things on their bodies, and then we're going to have the speed skaters who skate much faster than everybody else, and I had to build it from timings as to what we wanted to see, when we wanted to see it. And then I put together movement with demo costumes on my assistants, and I put together their movement, and then I taped it, and I did the Ice Warriors for 35 seconds, and this is how they were going to enter, and this is where they were going to go, and then we sent it to all the footage and the timings to Michael Kamen, who was the composer, and he took that footage and pieced it together and made a piece of music.
That's
And I thought,
that's so backwards of what we think about choreographing, because usually it's the music first. Yeah.
I can't. I didn't know how it was going to turn out. I really didn't at first.
There's some trippy opening ceremonies. So when you knew that you were going to do this, like, I feel like that was a very classy opening. You had the beautiful thing where the skaters got like older and they all like wove in, but like you have a blank canvas with like an opening ceremony. It's like in China, they had the guys with the drums and everything. And then there's like the scroll, like, what was your vision for the opening ceremonies, and like how much of a creative license and budget do you have for something like that?
It was amazing. I mean, I got to dream, and I mean, when Kenny Ortega came to me and to meet me for the first time, and he said, "Look, I saw you do this TV special for Mulan with Michelle Kwan, and they did they skated with fire in a circle," and I said, "Oh yeah," I said, "Well, that's not hard to do." I said, "It's just rigging. You rig the line going down the leg, and then you ignite it, and you lay down the circle in advance, and because it's television, you can do that." And so right then and there, I said, we could do the Olympic rings that way. We could just lay it all out, and then I could have a guy do a backflip and ignite it, skate right through it and ignite it. And that was my dream. And that's how I got the job. That's how I got the job, with that dream. And so then we were actually going to do it. And then everybody agonized over what direction is it going to face? Is it going to face the VIP section, or is it going to have the torch in the background and face lengthwise? So, you're rehearsing it at 2 a.m. because it's a secret.
Wow.
You try, and we tried it out. I think we did maybe 4 times. But I had, low tech. We're talking a skater with a pole and a piece of rope, and then another skater at the end of the rope with a gas can, and we did a giant compass, and I did 5 human giant compasses, and I did them all at the same time, and then they skated back, and then I brought in Eddie Vallon, who was he's a trick skater, and he had done a lot of fire for me, and he did the Mulan special for me, and he said, "Look," he said, "it's too dangerous. It's way too dangerous I wanted Joseph Sabogchek, who does a great backflip, to do the backflip, land, and ignite it." And he said, that any amount of wind, it creates these little tornadoes, and it could be very, very dangerous for him. And so I said, "Okay, well then, how do I light it?" I said, "Can you do stars through it?" To Eddie, and he said, "Yeah, I can do stars through it." And he's the fireman. So I said, "What about the tornadoes?" He said, "I can do stars through it, but Joseph cannot do a backflip through it, period." And I said, "Okay, I respect that." That was a great memory to have. And those kids, those skaters, those 10 skaters that had to do that compass thing, everybody's hiding in the corner because everything is a surprise. You come out and everything is a surprise, and you come out, and then there's a distraction, and somebody is singing, and then they're doing the circles, and then Then they come off and then they're just only, hoping and praying that because if they don't lay it evenly, it doesn't light evenly. If it goes in a blob, it's no good. There's that pressure. There's that pressure too. They all did a great job. They were, they're skaters.
I can only imagine how nervous you were watching that though, because that's the moment. Yeah.
Oh my God. It was just one of those things where a lot of times I dream of something and I work on it and I'm living inside of it for so long and I just, I'm just in the middle of it and I create it, blah, blah, blah. And then I step back. It's done. My work is done and it's all up to them to do it. And then you realize what you've done, and sometimes, a lot of times, you just I don't realize the magnitude of what I've done until that moment. When I did the chess number for the Ice Capades many years ago, when those pieces came into the building and they were so ginormous, 32 pieces, and then I moved them, all of them moved like this, because I rotated the chessboard around the ice like this. It was the wind that they created, because the tallest one was 22 feet high. And I sat in the audience and I thought, oh my God, what have I done? It's okay.
It turned out wonderful. Yeah.
There's one skater from the Ice Capades. Well, there are many skaters that are fans that wrote in, but when we interviewed David Wilson, he spoke of you the way people speak of Madonna. I mean, the way he goes on about,
oh, that's
my
sweet.
skater didn't know who Sarah Kawahara was. And I was like, I mean, it was a monologue. So, do you remember him from the Ice Capades?
Absolutely. He was a half principal. He was very talented. And I felt like things came to him so easily. And I just wanted more tension in his body to be able to do more, because I felt like he could do more. I was not satisfied with what he came in with, but he was very happy with what he came in with.
Yeah.
So, but he's turned out terrifically. He's done some marvelous choreographic work, and I'm very proud of him.
Well, Sarah,
I want to ask one thing, is that you have 2 Emmys, and
Olympics and Scott Hamilton, yes.
What on earth is that like, to win an Emmy, when you grow up in skating and to really cross mediums like that and cross industry?
I had no idea. I was not brought up to be a champion. I was brought up to be an artist, a skater and an artist. I never knew that could be an option, that I could, ever be a champion. I mean, I just wasn't brought up that way. So then when I obviously was not going to be a champion, and I went into show skating, I knew I had found my home, and it truly never occurred to me that I would ever be in contention for an Emmy. Never in a million years does that ever pass through my mind. So it was a wild and crazy ride, and I'll never forget. I accepted my. I got the nomination. I was so excited. I was like, just floating on air. And my son is in preschool, and I drive down to the corner, and I'm in my platform shoes, stupid, and I run to get him, and I fell and I twisted my foot, and I got a Jones fracture, two directions, on my foot, and on my right foot, and I hobbled into and I said, I said, Mommy hurt her foot, and you have to cross the street with me, so you can't run. I said, so hold my hand. So we hobbled back, It was my right foot. I could barely hit the gas, and I drove back to the house, and I thought, shit. And I had just finished my pre-production for a show called Hercules for Disney on Ice. And I had to make the phone call to Kenneth Feld and tell him I broke my foot. And we were going to go into rehearsals in a couple weeks from then. And then I got then I won. I got to go. And he was going to let me go. He gave me, he gave me my little slip, and I could leave rehearsals for the weekend and go to the Emmys. And I went with, and I had my cast changed to a black, tasteful black.
That's your cast. Yeah.
And I'm sitting on the aisle with my husband. And I thought, shit, look at this. I'm nominated for a choreography award, and I have a cast on my foot. And I won, and I went up there with my cast, and it was a great memory.
What is it like when they actually call your name? Because I know I watch award shows, and I'm always, does it register that was your name when they call it? Are you just prepared to hear somebody else's name? Like, what is that moment actually like?
Well, it was very tingly. I was very tingly. Yeah, I heard my name, and there's a delay. There's like did I hear it? Was that really it? Was that me? And I look at my husband, and he goes, that's you. Oh God, thank God I was on the aisle. Excuse me. And I was halfway down, so it wasn't too bad of a walk, and I had to walk up the stairs. And I had just done a rehearsal for a big show in my cast, so I was pretty movable. Anyways, yeah, and then for the Emmy for the Olympics, it was fascinating because I was with people that were so experienced. Don Mischer, who has won 12 Emmys or something like that. He was an amazing producer, director, and so it was, but they really took it seriously, and they really strategized as to what was going to be submitted, what pieces were going to be submitted. Kenny called me and said, it's so important that we pick the right pieces when we do the submission. So I was part of that, and that was fascinating, because I truly, when I did my first submission for the first Emmy, I didn't know what I was doing. I picked the pieces I liked the best, and I sent them in. And I also thought to myself, because I'd never won anything. I literally have never won anything. I thought to myself, well, this is the best I can do. This is the very best I can do. And if it's not enough, well, it's not enough, but it's the best I can do. I knew my best work was in that Scott Hamilton Upside Down television special. And I was proud of it. So there you go. Anyways.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on tonight and sharing your career with us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a real pleasure speaking with both of you. And thanks for asking such wonderful questions. And I really appreciate it so much.
So much.
We'll continue painting. We're excited to see you. Have to send me more of your work.
Okay. I'll send you one from time to time. All right. Take care.
So much.
Stay safe and healthy.
Right.
And Friday, we will be back on Sunday.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night, guys.
Bye.